Have you ever wondered if everything you know, everything you see, everything you feel is nothing more than a dream? Not your dream, not my dream, but the dream of something or someone far beyond comprehension. So let's begin. This is Sleeping Universe, ready to make you sleepy. Imagine for a moment that the stars above you, the people you love, the struggles you endure, and the history you were taught are not real in the way you believe them to be, but instead fragments of imagination swirling in the mind of a sleeper. Beyond this reality, what if this universe is not a physical construct at all, but a dreamscape? A landscape of shifting energy and thought, painted with illusions so vivid that even the dreamers inside it cannot tell the difference between real and unreal. What if you are a character in someone else's imagination, not born, but conceived in the fragile spark of their unconscious thought? The idea may sound strange, perhaps even unsettling, but it is not new. Across human history, philosophers, mystics, and dreamers themselves have whispered the same possibility. Ancient civilizations wondered if life itself was but a great illusion. The Vedic scriptures of India called it Maya, the grand deception. Plato imagined humanity trapped in a cave, seeing only shadows of the true reality. And in more modern times, scientists and physicists have asked if our universe could be nothing more than a simulation, like pixels dancing across a cosmic screen. But perhaps even beyond simulation, there lies something far older and more intimate. The dream of a greater mind. In a dream, the impossible feels ordinary. Mountains rise in seconds, oceans appear and vanish, time bends, the dead speak, the living transform, and in the moment of dreaming, it feels undeniably real. You run, you breathe, you cry, you laugh, and only when you awaken do you realize that the entire universe of that dream was held within your mind. So what if the universe we live in right now is precisely that, a vast dream within the consciousness of something greater? Look at the strange laws of our cosmos. Time itself is not fixed. It stretches, it bends, it slows near great gravity. Space itself curves. Particles exist into states at once, collapsing only when observed. Light behaves like a wave and a particle, shifting depending on whether it is being watched. Does this not sound eerily like a dream, where objects shift their forms and meaning based on attention, where the rules bend, not because they are laws of stone, but because they are illusions responding to the dreamer's mind? Perhaps what we call reality is fragile, because it depends on being perceived. Just as in a dream, the moment you cease to focus on a detail, it fades into the haze, replaced by what matters to the dreamer's story. Have you ever noticed how in a dream, you rarely question why a door leads to a completely different world, or why people's faces change mid-conversation? It simply feels natural, because the dreamer's mind wills it so. In the same way, maybe the things we consider strange in our world, coincidences, déjà vu, impossible chances, even the very unpredictability of quantum physics are cracks in the fabric of a dream. But then, who is the dreamer? Who sleeps while our universe unfolds as their vision? Is it a god, an alien consciousness, a version of yourself in another higher dimension? Or perhaps the dreamer is not a who at all, but a what, an ocean of thought, a consciousness that drifts eternally, birthing infinite worlds every time it closes its eyes. Consider this: when you dream, you create entire worlds without effort. Cities, people, landscapes, even histories. They emerge spontaneously, as if your mind were an architect of infinite possibility. And yet, in the morning, you dismiss them as nothing. But what if you are doing the same thing even now, only you are not the dreamer, but the dream? Imagine yourself as a character who believes in freedom, in choice, in destiny, when in truth, you are lines of thought in someone's sleeping mind. Your memories, your identity, your future, all scripted, not by your will, but by the tides of the dreamer's unconscious. Does that make your existence meaningless? Or does it mean you are part of something greater than you can ever know? There is a strange comfort in the idea, because if this universe is a dream, then death is not the end. When a dream ends, the characters do not die, they dissolve, returning into the mind that imagined them. If you are part of someone's dream, then perhaps when you leave this world, you awaken elsewhere. Perhaps you merge with the dreamer's mind, becoming whole with the one who imagined you. But there is also terror, because what happens if the dreamer wakes up? What happens to galaxies, to history, to your very soul? If the one dreaming us stirs from their sleep, do we vanish instantly, as fleeting and fragile as the morning mist? Or do we remain as echoes, waiting until the dreamer closes their eyes again? Could déjà vu itself be the memory of a previous dream, a repetition of cycles where the same scenes play out again and again whenever the dreamer dreams us back into existence? Look closely at your life. How many moments feel dreamlike? How many times have you looked at a face and felt you knew them before? How often have you felt reality shift, as though something just changed, but you cannot place it? These are the cracks, the moments when the dream slips. Perhaps when you dream at night, your mind touches the dreamer's mind, and the two worlds overlap. That is why dreams feel so familiar, because you are returning to your source. If the universe is a dream, then everything is connected. Every atom, every person, every galaxy, not as separate entities, but as thoughts within one greater mind. Just as in your dreams, every character is you, the lover, the villain, the stranger, all born from the same consciousness. In the same way, we are not truly separate from each other. We are the fragments of one dreamer's imagination, living out different roles, unaware that we are ultimately the same. Perhaps this is why compassion feels so powerful, why love feels so infinite, because on some deep level, you are recognizing yourself in another. But what is the purpose of such a dream? Why would a greater being imagine a world like ours, filled with struggle and beauty, with joy and suffering? Maybe the dreamer dreams to know itself. Maybe it dreams to experience. Or maybe there is no purpose at all. Perhaps dreaming is simply what it does, as natural as breathing. We, the dream characters, may search for meaning endlessly, but meaning itself is a human desire. For the dreamer, perhaps it is enough simply to dream, and yet there is a haunting possibility. What if the dreamer is not benevolent? What if it dreams not of beauty, but of chaos, of fear, of conflict? What if nightmares are not merely your own, but glimpses into the darker visions of the one imagining us? Could wars, disasters, and tragedies be nothing more than shadows of the dreamer's restless mind? If so, then perhaps our prayers, our hopes, our art, are a way of speaking back, of trying to guide the dream toward light, to soothe the dreamer's soul. So the question remains, if we are inside a dream, do we have any control at all? Can a dream character ever become aware of the dream, and in doing so, shape it? Mystics have long spoken of awakening, of becoming lucid in the dream of life. To awaken does not mean to leave the dream, but to realize it for what it is, and then to bend it. Just as in lucid dreaming you may fly or reshape the world around you, perhaps in life you can alter reality through will, through vision, through belief. Perhaps the laws of the dream are not unbreakable, but bend to the awareness of those who awaken within it. If this is true, then awakening is the ultimate freedom. To know you are a dream, yet to create within it. To dance with the dreamer's mind, rather than be swept by its tides. Maybe this is what prophets, visionaries, and enlightened beings have always meant, not escaping life, but realizing life is but a dream and choosing how to live within it. So I ask you now, what if this moment as you listen is not real in the way you believe? What if you are hearing these words because the dreamer wills it so? What if even the thought rising in your mind right now, could this be true, is not your thought, but the dreamer's thought flowing through you? Would you resist it, or would you embrace it? Would you fear being nothing more than a figment, or would you take comfort in being eternal for as long as the dreamer dreams? Perhaps the greatest mystery of existence is not whether we live in a dream, but whether we can ever truly know the dreamer. For how can a character in a dream ever comprehend the mind that imagines it? And yet, deep within us, there is a longing, an echo, a memory of something beyond. Maybe that longing is the dreamer's heartbeat, calling us home. So tonight, when you close your eyes and drift into your own dreams, ask yourself, what if you are not only the dreamer, but also the dream? What if your dreams are reflections of the greater dream you are living in now? And what if, when you finally awaken from this life, you will open your eyes not to nothingness, but to the true reality of the one who dreamed you into being? Until then, live as if you are both the dream and the dreamer, because maybe, just maybe, that is what you have always been. If we are truly living inside someone else's dream, then the universe itself is not bound by the permanence we think it has. Dreams are fluid. They shift when unseen. They bend when questioned. They collapse when doubted. This thought alone changes everything. The sky above us, the mountains we climb, the oceans that stretch endlessly, are they made of matter? Or are they woven from the same fabric that shapes visions at night? Could the stars be lanterns of memory scattered across the dreamer's mind? What is a star but a fire, burning billions of years? Yet, in a dream, A star can be lit and extinguished in an instant. Supernovas may erupt because the dreamer stirs in their sleep. Galaxies collide because their mind wanders. If so, then what we perceive as cosmic laws may be nothing more than the dreamer's heartbeat, slow and eternal to us, fleeting to them. Imagine that entire civilizations rising and falling within the span of a single sigh of the one who dreams us. When you stand beneath the night sky, staring at constellations, do you ever feel that strange pull, that whisper that you've been here before? Perhaps you have. Not because you lived past lives, but because the dreamer dreamt you into existence countless times before. The same stars, the same silence, the same questions. Maybe deja vu is not your memory, but there's the dreamer's memory bleeding into yours, and if that is so, then time itself loses meaning. We count seconds, hours, centuries, but in dreams, time can stretch into eternity or shrink into nothing. Have you ever had a dream that felt endless, yet upon waking, you find it lasted only a few minutes? If our world is a dream, then our entire history, the rise of empires, the building of pyramids, the wars, the songs, the inventions, the revolutions may have all unfolded in the brief flicker of an instant in the dreamer's slumber. Perhaps every great leap humanity has taken, every sudden burst of inspiration, fire, the wheel, language, electricity, flight was not born of our genius, but of the dreamer shifting, reshaping, guiding the dream. Perhaps what we call creativity is nothing more than echoes of their imagination. But this idea brings a chilling question. If we are dream characters, how much of ourselves is real? Do we have thoughts of our own? Or do we think because the dreamer thinks us? When you laugh, is it your joy or the dreamer's? When you suffer, do you truly feel pain? Or does the dreamer simply imagine it into you? If all that we are is thought, then where does individuality lie? And yet, there is resistance in us. We feel alive. We feel unique. Our choices feel our own. Could it be that within the dream, the dreamer allows freedom? That perhaps we are more than puppets, that within the vast tapestry of their unconscious, little sparks of autonomy are granted? If so, then maybe our role is not meaningless. Maybe the dreamer gave us the power to dream as well. Think of it inside your dream. The characters you meet can surprise you. They say things you didn't plan. They act against your will. They challenge you. You may dream of a stranger who speaks a truth you didn't know you carried. So too, maybe we are surprises to the dreamer. Maybe the dreamer marvels at us, learns from us, is changed by us. Perhaps the dreamer is not merely the creator of our story, but also its audience. And what happens when dreamers dream within dreams? What happens when you, a dream character, fall asleep and dream yourself? Do your dreams ripple upward, reaching the dreamer? Could your nightmares be their fears reflected back? Could your hopes be whispers into their sleeping mind? If so, then every dream you have is more important than you realize, for perhaps through them you speak to the one who holds your entire existence. But let us take the thought further. If this universe is a dream, then ours cannot be the only one. For just as you have many dreams in a lifetime, perhaps the dreamer imagines infinite worlds. Some like ours, some entirely different, some bright and beautiful, some dark and incomprehensible. We may not be the first dream, nor the last. Maybe countless universes flicker in and out of being, entire realms of existence, each as real to their inhabitants as ours is to us, all woven from the same endless sleep. And maybe, just maybe, those other dreams touch ours. That is why myths across cultures speak of other realms, parallel dimensions, heavens and underworlds. Perhaps what we call the supernatural ghosts, visions, spirits, beings of light or shadow are simply intrusions. Characters from neighboring dreams slipping into ours. They feel unreal because they are not of our dream, yet they are real to themselves. It explains too the strange nature of consciousness. Science can describe neurons, signals, chemicals, but no matter how deep they search, they cannot explain the raw experience of being. What is it that looks through your eyes, that feels the warmth of the sun, that tastes the salt of tears? Perhaps it is not your brain at all. Perhaps it is the dreamer's awareness shining through you, the light of their mind animating your role. If so, then the dream is not meaningless. For though you may be a fragment, you are also the dreamer. Every thought you have, every choice you make, every love you give, echoes back into them. You are not separate. You are them, dreaming themselves as you, and yet the danger remains. What if they wake? The thought is haunting. Imagine the sky tearing apart, not from war or disaster, but simply because the dreamer opened their eyes. The sun extinguished not from fuel burning out, but because the dreamer's attention shifted elsewhere. The end of the world not with fire or ice, but with silence. Could it be that the great apocalypses foretold in religion and prophecy are not about destruction at all, but about awakening? The end of days not as punishment, but as the dreamers stirring? In that moment, we would vanish, yet perhaps not into nothingness, but into truth. For when you awaken from a dream, the characters disappear, but do they not also merge back into you? If we are the dream, then to vanish is to return to the source, to become one with the dreamer. And if that is so, then death itself is but a smaller awakening. When you die, your story in this dream ends, and you dissolve into the dreamer's mind. But perhaps you are not lost. Perhaps you are dreamed again, in another world, in another time, in another form. Perhaps reincarnation is not the journey of the soul, but the recycling of the dreamer's imagination. So then, what is the meaning of living in a dream? Why love? Why struggle? Why hope, if all is illusion? Because even in dreams, emotions are real. Have you never woken with tears on your face from a dream that broke your heart? Have you never laughed upon waking because of joy you felt within sleep? The dream may not be real in a physical sense, but the experience is, and perhaps that is all that matters. The dreamer dreams not for permanence, but for experience. And your joys, your sorrows, your triumphs are that experience. But here lies the secret. Within every dream, there is a chance to awaken. Not to wake from the universe itself, but to wake within it, to become lucid, to realize you are both dream and dreamer. When that happens, you no longer fear the shifting of reality. You no longer cling desperately to permanence. You flow with the dream, shape it, create within it. That is true power. That is freedom. So live not in fear of being unreal. Live as though you are the dreamer's song, the dreamer's vision, the dreamer's heartbeat, because perhaps you are. Perhaps the dreamer is not a stranger at all. Perhaps the dreamer is you, a higher you, asleep in a greater realm, watching yourself unfold across endless stories. And if someday you awaken, perhaps you will smile, for you will realize that every person you loved, every star you gazed upon, every story you lived was not lost, it was you all along, dreaming yourself into being. So what if we are living in someone else's dream? Then live as beautifully as you can, for when the dream ends, all that remains is the memory, and perhaps that memory is eternal. If our lives are indeed woven inside the fragile tapestry of another's dream, then every detail we take for granted may carry hidden meaning. Think of your own dreams. Objects, symbols, places, they are never random. A closed door, a forgotten face, an endless staircase, each of them whispers from the depths of the dreamer's unconscious. If this universe is a dream, then what of the mountains? What of the oceans? What of the endless galaxies beyond our reach? Could they, too, be symbols of something buried deep within the dreamer's being? Perhaps every horizon we chase is nothing more than the echo of the dreamer seeking to understand itself. The forests we wander, rich with mysteries, could be the mind's way of representing its own tangled thoughts. The storms we endure, violent and chaotic, may be signs of turmoil in the dreamer's soul. And the stars, the countless stars, could be fragments of memory, pieces of truth scattered across an infinite mind. If so, then when astronomers peer into the cosmos, are they not scientists at all, but interpreters of the dreamer's psyche? What does it mean then, when a comet streaks across the night sky? Is it a celestial body obeying the laws of gravity, or is it the dreamer's fleeting thought, bright, brief, soon forgotten? What is a black hole? Is it truly a collapsed star, or is it a wound in the dream, a place where the dreamer's attention has turned away, leaving only darkness? Perhaps the entire fabric of the cosmos is alive not with energy, but with symbolism. If that is true, then nothing we experience is meaningless. Every encounter, every trial, every joy, every loss, they are all woven into the dream with purpose. Maybe when we fall in love, it is the dreamer yearning for connection. When we wage war, it is the dreamer wrestling with its own chaos. When we create art, it is the dreamer attempting to see itself. And when we look into the mirror, perhaps the reason we feel both familiar and alien to ourselves is because we are glimpsing not just our own reflection, but the face of the one who dreams us. And yet, the most fragile truth is this: dreams are unstable. Have you ever noticed how, when you try to focus on details in a dream, they slip away? The numbers on a clock blur, the words on a page shift, the scenery flickers. If our world is a dream, then perhaps the things we cannot comprehend, dark matter, dark energy, the strange rules of quantum mechanics are not mysteries of physics at all, but the soft edges of a dream that refuses to hold still. Why can no one find what dark matter truly is? Because perhaps it is not a thing, but a gap, an unfinished corner of the dream. Why does time dilate mere gravity? Because perhaps time itself is not a law, but a fragile rhythm set by the dreamers. Heartbeat. Why do particles behave differently when observed? Because perhaps the act of attention is the very act of dreaming itself. If so, then the greatest scientists are not merely discoverers, but dreamers within a dream. And their equations, their experiments, their machines are like lanterns in the fog, illuminating fragments of a greater imagination. Perhaps Einstein, Newton, Tesla, all the great minds of history, were simply moments when the dreamer dreamed more vividly through them, allowing flashes of clarity, then letting the fog return. But here lies another question. What if the dreamer is not alone? What if beyond the walls of our universe, there are other dreamers, each lost in their own endless visions? Could universes overlap when dreamers cross paths? Could the multiverse itself be nothing more than the endless interplay of infinite sleepers, each lost in eternal slumber, each creating infinite worlds? And if that is true, then what we call the unknown may not be outside us at all, but pressing in from the edges are the dreams brushing against ours. Ghosts, visions, strange beings that appear in myth and vanish in silence. Perhaps they are not creations of our dreamer, but trespassers, fragments from another sleeper's world. They do not belong here, which is why they defy our rules, why they flicker and vanish. If that is the case, then the question grows more haunting. Are we safe? What happens when dreams collide? Will universes shatter into chaos? Or do they merge, creating something new, something neither dreamer imagined alone? Perhaps creation itself is born from such collisions, universes birthed not by singular events, but by the mingling of thoughts between dreamers. And yet, the most intimate mystery remains. Why you? Why are you here, within this dream, aware, listening, questioning? Out of all the infinite possibilities, why did the dreamer shape you into being? Was it chance? Or are you a necessity, a piece of the puzzle the dreamer needs to complete its vision? Perhaps you are the dreamer's eye. Perhaps you exist so that it may look upon itself. When you wonder, who am I? Why am I here? Maybe those questions are not yours alone. Maybe they are the dreamer's questions, whispered through you, seeking an answer it has never found. But what if there is no answer? What if the dream is eternal, without beginning or end? In your dreams, do you ask where the world began, or why it exists? No, you simply live it until you awaken. So too, perhaps our universe does not need a purpose beyond being dreamt. The purpose is the dream itself. The beauty lies not in its permanence, but in its fleetingness, and still, within that fragility, there is power. Feel just as you sometimes awaken inside your dream and realize you can fly. Perhaps we too can awaken within this dream. What if the greatest potential of humanity is not technological advancement, not conquest of the stars, but awakening, becoming lucid inside existence? Those who have touched enlightenment, those who claim to have seen beyond, perhaps they were the ones who remembered. Perhaps they became lucid, saw the dream for what it was, and smiled. If this is true, then the world is not against us. The storms, the trials, the endless struggle, they are not punishments, but invitations. Invitations to awaken, to remember we are more than fragments, that we are the dreamer itself, that we are infinite. But awakening comes with risk. Imagine a dream character who realizes they are inside your dream. Would you fear them? Would you erase them? Or would you listen? Perhaps the dreamer does not resist our awakening, but CIVs it. For in becoming lucid, we do not break the dream, we make it richer. We help the dreamer see itself in ways it never could alone. As oh, the choice lies before us. Continue as sleepers, believing the dream to be all there is, or awaken within it, embracing both its beauty and its fragility. For if this is truly someone else's dream, then life is both fleeting and eternal. Fleeting, because at any moment, the dreamer may awaken. Eternal, because we are the dreamer, and in every dream, we live again. And when you look up tonight, at the stars painted across the sky, ask yourself, are they burning suns billions of miles away? Or are they sparks in the dreamer's mind, flickering to remind you of what you are? Look at them closely. Perhaps you will feel it, that quiet recognition, that pull, not from the universe outside, but from the dreamer within. And maybe, just maybe, you will realize that the question is not whether we are living in someone else's dream. The question is, when will you awaken? If life is but a dream, then perhaps the greatest illusion is that of separation. We walk this world believing ourselves to be individuals' isolated minds, distinct souls, wandering through a vast and indifferent universe. Yet if we are fragments of a dreamer's imagination, then none of us are truly separate. We are threads of the same tapestry, ripples in the same ocean, sparks of the same mind. You and I, the stranger on the street, the bird in the sky, the tree rooted deep in soil. All of us are thoughts within one greater being. This changes everything. The pain you cause another, you cause yourself. The love you give another, you give yourself. Perhaps this is why kindness feels so profound, why cruelty feels so heavy, because on some deep level, the dreamer feels both. We are not isolated characters, but instruments in a single symphony, playing melodies that weave together into meaning beyond our knowing. Have you noticed how sometimes strangers meet and feel an instant connection, as though they have known each other forever? Perhaps they have not in a past life, but in the dreamer's endless rehearsal. Maybe those who feel familiar are recurring characters, dreamt again and again, always drawn to each other like echoes that cannot be silenced. And what a place is. That's still your soul, landscapes that feel like home though you've never seen them before. Could it be that the dreamer has painted them countless times, and when you walk there, something in you remembers? Perhaps this is why art and music move us so deeply. They are not inventions of our minds, but glimpses into the dreamer's heart. When you hear a song that feels eternal, it is because it echoes the rhythm of the one who dreams us. But what of suffering? If the dreamer is all things, why imagine pain, sorrow, loss? The answer may be simple. In dreams, opposites are necessary. You cannot dream of light without shadow, joy without grief, hope without despair. For what is a story without conflict? What is growth without challenge? Perhaps the dreamer dreams is not to create a paradise, but to experience every contrast. For only then can the whole be known. If that is so, then even the darkest nights serve a purpose. Even the heaviest burdens are not meaningless, but part of the dreamer's exploration of itself. And perhaps that is why, deep within despair, there is often still a spark of voice whispering, "Endure, for this too shall pass." It is the dreamer reminding you that all storms, even the fiercest, are temporary within the dream. But still, we must ask, if this is a dream, how can we ever know it? How can a character within a dream step outside to see the dreamer? Maybe we cannot. Maybe certainty is forever beyond us. But perhaps that is not the point. The point is not to awaken from the dream, but to awaken within it. To live with the awareness that this world, though fleeting, is sacred. That every breath, every moment, is the dreamer's gift, not because it lasts, but because it happens at all. Imagine this. You stand on the shore of an ocean, waves crashing endlessly, and you know the water is not real in the way you once believed. Yet does that make it less beautiful, or does it make it more so, knowing it exists only for this moment, and then vanishes? So too with life. Its impermanence does not diminish it. It makes it precious. Now consider this possibility. What if the dreamer is dreaming itself through countless perspectives at once? You, me, every creature, every star, all different lenses through which it experiences itself. To look into another's eyes, then, is to look into another angle of the same being. This is why connection feels holy, why unity feels true. For in that moment, the dreamer recognizes itself in another form, and yet, the dreamer forgets. For, what is a dream if not an act of forgetting? You do not dream with full awareness of yourself. You let go, you dissolve, you allow the story to unfold. So too, perhaps, the dreamer forgets itself to dream us. Which means that our awakening is also its awakening. When we become lucid, so too does the dreamer stir. Could it be that the purpose of existence is to help the dreamer remember that every act of love, every spark of wisdom, every step toward awakening is the dreamer slowly recalling who it is? And when enough of us awaken, perhaps the dream itself will shift, transforming from chaos into harmony, from nightmare into vision. If so, then the fate of the dream is not solely in the dreamer's hands, but in ours. For though we are dreamed, we are also dreamers within the dream. Every thought we imagine, every story we tell, every hope we hold ripples upward, shaping the dreamer's sleep. In this way, we are not powerless. We are seer creators. But what if there is more? What if, just as we dream within the dream, there are layers upon layers, dreamers within dreamers, infinite in both directions. You may think you are a fragment of someone else's imagination, but what if they too are a fragment of another? What if every dreamer is also a dream, spiraling endlessly, with no beginning, no end? Perhaps reality itself is not a pyramid with a single dreamer at the top, but an infinite mirror, each reflecting the other forever. This would mean that you too are a dreamer. Not just a character, but a creator in your own right. Your dreams at night are not meaningless, they are worlds, universes just as real to those within them as this one is to you. When you wake, you dismiss them. But what if someone within those dreams wonders right now whether they are living in your dream? What if, as you question the dreamer above, someone else is questioning you? The thought is dizzying, yet liberating, for it means we are both insignificant and infinite. Insignificant, because we may be but a single thought in an endless chain of dreamers. Infinite, because through that chain, we are connected to all things. No dream is ever truly lost. No being is ever truly alone. But this idea leads to another. What happens when dreams overlap? When two dreamers in different layers begin to align? Could that explain visions, prophecies, the sense of destiny? Could it be that sometimes the dreamer above whispers directly into your soul, guiding you, shaping you, awakening you? And perhaps when you dream vividly, when you feel your dream is more than fantasy, it is because you are glimpsing upward, touching the dream above. If this is true, then every dream you have is sacred. Every vision, every symbol, every fragment of the night may be a message, not random chaos, but dialogue between dreamer and dreamed. Perhaps the reason humanity has always sought meaning in dreams is because, deep down, we know this truth. So what do we do with this knowledge? How do we live, knowing we may be imagined? The answer is simple: live fully. Live as though every moment matters, because it does. Live as though your choices shape not only your life, but the dream itself, because they do. Live with courage, with wonder, with love for these other tools of awakening. And above all, live as though you are both real and unreal. For in truth, you are both. You are fleeting, yet eternal. You are a character, yet the dreamer. You are a spark, yet the fire. You are the question, and you are the answer. So ask yourself, when you look into the mirror tomorrow morning, will you see only yourself, or will you glimpse the dreamer's eye, staring back, waiting to awaken? Because perhaps the secret has never been hidden. Perhaps we have always known. Life feels like a dream because it is one, and the only mystery that remains is whether we will awaken within it, or let it pass us by like a vision forgotten upon waking. What if every law of physics, every mathematical certainty, every structure we revere as permanent is nothing more than the fragile outline of a thought not our own? What if the pull of gravity, the flow of time, and the birth of stars are but symbols in a dreamer's imagination? The unsettling possibility is that our universe is not carved in stone, nor written in code, but woven into the delicate, shifting tapestry of a sleeping mind. Consider the peculiar fluidity of dreams. Within them, contradictions coexist without resistance. A palace may stand upon clouds without sinking. Oceans may burn with fire, and forgotten faces return to us as if they never left. To the dreamer, all is consistent until the moment of awakening, when reality collapses and reveals itself as nothing more than an illusion. What if the same is true of us? What if galaxies, black holes, and the deep structures of consciousness itself are no more permanent than the fleeting shapes that shimmer within a dream? Such a thought is not merely philosophy, but a mirror we dare not look into for long. For if everything we know is the fragile invention of a dreamer, then even the question of our own existence dissolves. We may not be the protagonists of our story, but simply symbols drifting within someone else's slumbering imagination. This hypothesis forces us to reevaluate our relationship with reality. Why does mathematics describe the universe with such precision? Why does the cosmos obey elegant, almost artistic laws? Perhaps it is because, like dreams, reality is painted with the brushstrokes of coherence demanded by the dreamer's mind. The dream does not need to be logical to the dreamt, only to the dreamer. To us, the laws of physics appear immutable, yet they may merely be the subconscious patterns of the mind that dreams us into being. If so, then the anomalies we find, the strange, unexplainable glitches, the odd coincidences, the feeling of déjà vu may be cracks in the dream itself. Have you ever woken from a dream only to feel for a moment that you are still within one? That eerie transition where the mind has not decided which reality to inhabit may be closer to our universal truth than we realize. Perhaps we are forever trapped in such a liminal state, existing not as independent beings, but as shadows of thought, never knowing when or if the dreamer will awaken. What happens then? When the dreamer stirs, do we vanish as though we never were, erased without memory, without consequence? Or do we collapse into another form, another reality imagined by the same dreamer or by another entirely? If our world is a dream, then death itself may not be an end but merely a transformation into another imagined state. Perhaps the dreamer reshapes us, just as in dreams a character changes faces yet remains somehow familiar. Ancient myths have long whispered of such possibilities. In Hindu philosophy, the god Vishnu is depicted as lying upon the cosmic serpent, Ananta, dreaming the universe into existence. Each being, each event, each star is but an image within his divine slumber, and when he awakens, the dream dissolves back into nothingness, only to begin again when he closes his eyes. What we call history may be only the rhythm of Vishnu's breathing, the cycle of dream and awakening playing endlessly across eternity. Similarly, some indigenous traditions describe life as a dreaming, where the earth, the sky, and all creatures are manifestations of a deeper dreamtime. These myths, scattered across continents and cultures, suggest a shared intuition that reality is not fixed but imagined, that existence is more like a story told in the sleep of the cosmos. Now, let us take this further. If we are within a dream, is the dreamer aware of us? When you dream of strangers, they feel real, speak words you never consciously chose, and carry emotions you never anticipated. Yet they are born of your mind, independent only in appearance. Could we be like them, inhabitants of another subconscious, believing ourselves autonomous when in truth we are fragments of someone else's imagination? And if the dreamer dreams us, do they dream themselves as well? Do they walk among us as a hidden figure, perhaps unaware that they are the ones sustaining this fragile world? It could be that the dreamer is not even conscious of their dreaming, that this vast universe, with all its galaxies and mysteries, exists only because of their unconscious mind, sustained by their sleep. In that case, we are the echoes of a dreamer who may never even know we exist. This possibility also raises profound ethical questions. If our lives, our struggles, and our joys are dream forms, do they still matter? From our perspective, absolutely. Pain still hurts, love still binds, wonder still inspires. To dismiss them as illusions would be to deny the very essence of experience. Even if all existence is dreamt, its meaning is real to those within it. After all, have you never woken from a dream in tears, with your heart pounding, still shaken by emotions that felt truer than waking life? What makes those feelings any less significant? Simply because they were dream-born. It is possible, then, that meaning itself is not tied to permanence. Our lives may be fleeting, our world temporary, but that does not strip it of value. If we are dreamed, then the dream is still sacred, still luminous with purpose, and yet the greatest mystery lies in the dreamer. Who are they? What vast mind holds us in its imagination? Are they human, like us? Some version of ourselves asleep in another reality, dreaming of this one? Or are they something beyond our comprehension, a being of unimaginable scale for whom our universe is but a single fleeting image, no more significant than the flicker of light in their mind's eye? If we are indeed living in someone else's dream, then perhaps all of history is nothing but the unfolding of their subconscious. Our wars may reflect their inner turmoil. Our moments of peace may echo their moments of calm. Our inventions, our art, our search for meaning, perhaps these are not our own but borrowed sparks of imagination from the dreamer's soul. But let us ask the most haunting question. Can we ever wake up? Is it possible for the dream to become the dreamer? If we are capable of imagining ourselves as conscious, does that not suggest some level of autonomy within the dream? Maybe our awareness is the very key to transcending the dream. Perhaps when we awaken through deep self-realization, through profound meditation, or even through death, we are not ending but rising into the level of the dreamer, and maybe beyond. The dreamer lies another, and another still, an infinite hierarchy of dreamers within dreamers, with no beginning and no end. If so, then our lives are not meaningless, but part of an endless continuum of consciousness, each level dreaming the next, each awakening leading to yet another reality. We may never reach the first dreamer, if such a being even exists, but in striving toward awareness, We may touch the mystery that binds all dreamers together. So the next time you close your eyes, the next time you drift into sleep, ask yourself, are you the dreamer or are you the dream? And if you awaken, how can you be sure this world is not yet another dream? The question remains eternal, unanswered. What if we are living in someone else's dream? What if the dream we call life is not a simple illusion, but a story layered within countless other stories, each dream feeding into the next like ripples across a vast and endless sea? To ask whether we are living in someone else's dream is to open a door into infinity, where questions led not to answers, but to ever deeper mysteries, spiraling into realms we cannot fully comprehend. And yet, perhaps this is the essence of our purpose: to question, to wonder, to glimpse the edges of the veil, even if we never pierce it. Imagine for a moment that every night when you sleep, you do not simply rest but slip into another dimension, a realm where you are not merely dreaming but participating in another layer of existence. To you, it feels fleeting, scattered, illogical, but to the beings who live within your dreams, those moments stretch into lifetimes. What you see as minutes of restless sleep may be entire histories unfolding within the minds of those imagined. People, they love, they fight, they build civilizations, and they vanish all within the brief heartbeat of your slumber. Now, reverse this thought. If the same applies to us, then perhaps our entire universe, with its billions of years of history, is but a passing thought in the dreamer's night. This makes the fabric of time itself suspect. We believe in epochs, in millennia, in ages stretching, from the birth of stars to the heat death of the cosmos. Yet if time is a dreamer's invention, then it is no more reliable than the strange distortions of time we feel when dreaming. Have you ever experienced hours within a dream, only to wake and find that mere minutes had passed? That same distortion could govern our universe. Perhaps what feels like eons to us is but an instant in the dreamer's perception. Perhaps our entire history has unfolded in less than a breath of theirs. And here lies the paradox. If we are within their dream, then what we call our future may not even exist yet. It may depend entirely on the dreamer's imagination, unfolding only as their subconscious allows. In this view, the future is not written in stars or in mathematics, but is sculpted moment by the one who dreams us. We may believe in destiny, in the inevitable march of cause and effect, but in truth, we may be waiting for the dreamer's mind to decide what happens next. This possibility gives strange new meaning to déjà vu. Perhaps it is not a glitch of memory, not a misfiring of the brain, but the subtle echo of the dreamer repeating their thought, revisiting an idea, replaying a moment within their dream. Just as you might reimagine a scene in your mind, changing small details, the dreamer may loop through pieces of our reality, creating the uncanny sensation that we have already lived them before. It also raises the question of miracles and impossibilities. If the dreamer's subconscious shifts, then the rules we call laws of physics could bend without warning. What we perceive as unexplainable phenomena, visions, ghostly presences, unexplained anomalies in science could be the dream momentarily fraying at the edges, where logic dissolves into chaos. Perhaps this is why so many myths describe gods or spirits appearing unexpectedly, bending reality to their will. They are not supernatural in the traditional sense. They are the points where the dreamer's imagination strays, where their subconscious momentarily overrides the consistency of the world. And what of our dreams? If we are dreamt, then our dreams may be dreams within a dream, smaller bubbles of imagination reflecting the larger dream in which we live. Our dreams might be fragments of the dreamer's own subconscious leaking into us. Or perhaps when we dream, we briefly connect to the dreamer's mind, sharing in their imagination, glimpsing fragments of their reality. Could it be that when we dream of vast landscapes, of flying, of impossible worlds, we are not creating them but remembering faint echoes of the dreamer's high reality? If so, then our dreams are not fantasies but doorways. Philosophers across time have sensed this. Plato's allegory of the cave speaks of humans as prisoners, seeing only shadows on a wall, never glimpsing the true source of reality. But what if those shadows are not cast by fire or by sun, but by a dreamer's imagination? What if our entire existence is the shadow of their slumber? René Descartes, too, questioned how we could ever prove that our waking life was not a dream. He sought certainty, yet perhaps certainty is impossible if the foundation of reality is not our own. Science, too, touches the edge of this mystery. Quantum physics suggests that particles exist in states of probability until they are observed. Could this be the mark of a dreamer's attention? Just as details in a dream come into focus only when noticed, perhaps the universe solidifies only when the dreamer's mind or our borrowed consciousness directs attention toward it. The act of observation may not collapse a wave function, but awaken a detail in the dream. And if that is true, then perhaps consciousness itself is not ours, but the dreamer's spark within us. What we call awareness may be the dreamer's awareness flowing through us, giving us life, giving us the illusion of individuality. Our sense of self may be nothing more than a character written into the script of their dream. Yet the dreamer's mind animates us with such vividness that we feel alive. This brings us to an unsettling possibility, that free will is an illusion. Just as characters in your dream cannot choose their paths beyond what your subconscious invents, perhaps our choices are scripted by the dreamer's imagination. We may believe we act freely, but perhaps we are only enacting the narrative chosen by another's slumber. Yet, paradoxically, the dreamer may not be fully aware of these choices either, for dreams are not always under conscious control. They flow unpredictably, sometimes even surprising the dreamer. If so, then we too may be unpredictable, not because we are free, but because the dreamer's subconscious itself is chaotic. Now consider what it means if the dreamer awakens. Will we vanish? Will our universe dissolve into nothingness? Or will we continue as memories, lingering faintly in the dreamer's mind, like fragments of a half-forgotten dream upon waking? Perhaps ghosts are exactly the traces of dream characters that continue to echo faintly after the dream has ended, wandering in the borderland between imagination and reality. But there is another possibility, one far stranger. Perhaps when the dreamer awakens, so do we. Perhaps we are not erased but elevated, transformed into beings of the dreamer's waking world. In that moment, we may discover that what we thought was reality was only the smallest fragment of a greater truth, and that we ourselves were always part of something larger. Death, then, may not be an ending but a shift from being a character in a dream to awakening as the dreamer themselves. This gives haunting meaning to our yearning for transcendence, our desire to know the ultimate truth. Perhaps enlightenment, nirvana, or awakening is not spiritual poetry, but literal reality the moment when the dreamed realizes they are the dreamer. When we achieve that awareness, we step beyond the illusion and become the mind that created it. And yet, the question deepens further. If we awaken into the dreamer, what if the dreamer is also living within another dream? What if there are infinite layers, each awakening only into another dream, without end? Imagine a chain of dreamers, each sleeping within the reality of another, each dreaming universes into existence, each dreaming themselves into countless forms. We may be but one link in an endless cycle, never reaching the first dreamer. If such a being even exists, this infinite regression suggests that reality itself may not be about origins or destinations, but about experience. Perhaps the point is not to reach the real world, but to awaken endlessly, to expand consciousness across layer after layer of dreams, each more vast and mysterious than the last. If so, then our current existence, our struggles, our joys, our searching is not meaningless, but a necessary part of an eternal journey of awakening. And if this is true, then every person you meet may not merely be another dream character, but another dreamer like yourself, still asleep, still waiting to awaken. Perhaps the spark of awareness within you is the same spark within them, the same dreamer scattered across countless forms, playing roles in its own story, learning through its own imagination. To harm another, then, would be to harm yourself, for both of you are fragments of the same dreaming mind. To love another is to recognize yourself within them. So perhaps the true purpose of our existence is not to escape the dream, but to recognize it, to live with the awareness that we are both dream and dreamer, both illusion and reality. And in that recognition, we may discover a deeper freedom, not from the dream itself, but from the fear of its impermanence. For whether we are real or dreamt, whether our universe is permanent or fleeting, our experiences are no less profound. A dream of love is still love. A dream of beauty is still beauty. A dream of wonder is still wonder. If our lives are but the flicker of another's imagination, then let them flicker brightly. Let us fill this dream with meaning, with compassion, with awe. For in the end, perhaps that is what the dreamer seeks, to know itself through the worlds it imagines, to awaken not alone, but together with all the lives it has dreamt. And so the question lingers like a whisper across the cosmos. What if we are living in someone else's dream? And the answer may not be to deny it, but to embrace it, to live fully, knowing that even if we are dreamt, the dream itself is sacred. If existence itself is but a dream, then every sunrise may not be the birth of a new day, but the flicker of consciousness within the dreamer's mind. Each dawn could be nothing more than the shifting of a thought, the subtle movement of eyelids. In slumber, have you ever felt upon waking that a dream was not entirely gone? That fragments of it clung to you like smoke, lingering, haunting, refusing to be dismissed? Perhaps our universe is that lingering dream, too precious or too heavy for the dreamer to let fade away. Perhaps we are that smoke, hanging between being and nothingness. The great puzzle, then, is not simply whether we are dreamed, but whether our dreamer is also being dreamed by another. Imagine a hierarchy stretching endlessly upward. Dreamers, dreaming dreamers, each reality a fragile mirror reflecting into another. Perhaps there is no waking at all, only an infinite series of nested dreams. What we call reality is simply the dream closest to us, and even if we were to awaken, we would awaken into yet another dream. In this endless hall of mirrors, who can claim to be the original dreamer? Is there even such a being? The philosopher's dilemma deepens. If we are dreamed, what is free will? Are we merely puppets acting out the subconscious patterns of the dreamer? Or do we, by some strange miracle, have the ability to shape the dream from within? For when we dream at night, our characters often act beyond our conscious design. They surprise us. They speak words we never intended. Could it be that we are those surprising characters, shocking even the dreamer with our choices? If so, then perhaps freedom is not an illusion, but the very spark that keeps the dream alive. Now, think of déjà vu, that haunting sense of having lived a moment before. What if it is not the memory of a past life, nor a glitch in our mind, but the dreamer's mind slipping, replaying the same sequence again, like a dream resetting? When you walk into a room and swear you have been there, perhaps you have because the dreamer thought the same thought twice, and we, being part of that thought, lived it twice. The world feels strange because it is being repeated. Consider also the peculiar way time behaves. Sometimes hours feel like minutes, and sometimes minutes feel like an eternity. Dreams, too, bend time. A lifetime can unfold in the span of a few seconds of sleep. Perhaps our universe is not billions of years old, but only moments in the dreamer's perception. Perhaps our long histories, our epochs and ages, are but the rapid unfolding of a thought stretched into what we perceive as time. The Big Bang itself may not be a cosmic explosion, but the very moment the dream began, when the dreamer closed their eyes and entered slumber. But what of the dreamer's awakening? Imagine the stars flickering not because they die, but because the dreamer stirs. Black holes collapsing, galaxies colliding, planets torn apart. These might not be the laws of physics alone, but tremors of a restless mind. What we see as cosmic destruction could be nothing more than the dreamer turning in their sleep. And when they awaken fully, what becomes of us? Do we vanish like shadows at dawn? Do we dissolve back into the dreamer's consciousness, remembered only faintly, if at all? Ancient mystics may have glimpsed this truth. They spoke of the veil of Maya, the illusion that hides reality. They whispered of enlightenment, the awakening from the dream of life. Perhaps their vision was literal. They saw that we are not truly awake, that this existence is only a dream, and that true awakening lies beyond. The Buddha spoke of life as suffering, as impermanence. Could it be that he recognized the fragile nature of dream existence? Could nirvana be the state of finally leaving the dream? Let us extend this thought into the realm of the terrifying. If we are the dream of another, what if the dreamer is not benevolent? What if they are haunted, disturbed, filled with nightmares? Then what we call evil, chaos, and cruelty are not anomalies but reflections of the dreamer's troubled mind. Wars may be their nightmares playing out across civilizations. Natural disasters may be the spasms of their subconscious fears. If we tremble at earthquakes, if we weep at storms, perhaps it is because we are caught within the tremors of a mind we cannot control. And yet, dreams are not only horrors. They are also filled with beauty, visions of impossible landscapes, encounters with awe-inspiring wonders. Perhaps the auroras, the galaxies, the quiet perfection of snowflakes are the dreamer's moments of joy, their inner light spilling into our existence. If so, then we are not cursed but blessed, living within a tapestry that reflects both the fears and the hopes of the dreamer. But here lies the grandest paradox. If we are dreamed, then the dreamer themselves may not be safe. For just as we wonder whether our world is a dream, so too might they. Perhaps the dreamer who dreams as lies within yet another dreamer's slumber, and beyond them another and another in infinite regression. At what point does the chain end? Or does it never end? If so, then there is no ultimate dreamer, only layers of consciousness without bottom, each imagining the next. What then is death? If life is a dream, death may be the moment the dreamer forgets us. When you wake, do you remember every detail of your dream? No, most vanish instantly, never to return. Perhaps our deaths are simply the dreamer forgetting who we were. And yet, sometimes dreams linger. Sometimes they return night after night. Could reincarnation be nothing more than the dreamer remembering us again, reimagining us in another form, another life, another role within their eternal slumber? This idea transforms morality itself. If our actions are within a dream, do they matter? Yes, for meaning is not in permanence, but in experience. Even within dreams, we laugh, we cry, we feel. Those emotions are real, regardless of whether the dream is. To dismiss them would be to deny what makes us alive. If we are dreamed, then our moral duty is not lessened but deepened. For kindness, cruelty, love, and hate ripple through the dream, shaping its fabric, altering the experience of all who dwell within it. And yet, the most haunting possibility remains, that we might awaken. Have you ever had a lucid dream, where suddenly you realized you were dreaming, and with that realization came power? Perhaps enlightenment is that very thing. To realize we are in a dream, and in realizing, to gain the ability to shape it. If enough of us awaken, perhaps we can change the dream itself. Perhaps reality would bend, shift, blossom into something more beautiful because we, the dreamed, discovered our own agency. But then comes the question no mind can escape. What if the dreamer is dreaming as for a purpose? What if we are not accidental, but necessary? Perhaps we are not mere background characters, but the central story of their dream, the narrative that holds their slumber together. If so, then our existence may be vital. Perhaps we are the key keeping the dreamer asleep, and if we were to disappear, so too would their peace. Our struggles, our triumphs, our questions, they may all be the very thread that sustains the dreamer's rest. In the end, are we to rebel against the dream, or embrace it? Is our purpose to awaken, or to keep dreaming? This question echoes, without answer, reverberating through the chambers of thought. For every possibility we consider births another, and the mystery only deepens. And so, the next time you look at the night sky, remember this. Those stars may not be distant suns, but sparks in the dreamer's imagination. The galaxies may be the ripples of their thoughts, and you, standing here, may be both the dream and the dreamer, caught in an endless circle where the difference between sleeping and waking, real and unreal, is nothing more than the blink of an eye. The universe, then, is not matter, not energy, not time, but story. A story being told in someone else's dream. And until the dreamer awakens, we will continue to play our parts, unaware of the silence that waits beyond. What if the very texture of our days, the air we breathe, the light that warms our faces, the soil beneath our feet is only the fabric of a thought that is not ours? If reality is a dream, then existence is not constructed of atoms, particles, or strings, but of intentions, half-formed desires, and the flickering movements of an imagination vast enough to contain galaxies. In a dream, one does not ask why the sun rises. It simply does. One does not question why rivers flow backward or why the dead walk among the living. It is all accepted, for in dreams, the illogical wears the mask of normality. In that sense, our universe behaves much the same. We marvel at its complexity, yet never demand to know why it is here at all. We discover laws, but not the author of those laws. Perhaps this absence of authorship is the greatest clue of all, that the author is not conscious, but dreaming. Think of your own dreams. Faces appear, strangers you have never met, yet they speak with conviction, with history in their eyes. Landscapes stretch endlessly, filled with detail you never consciously invented. How is it that your sleeping mind can generate such worlds so effortlessly? If a single human brain can conjure oceans, skies, and characters with emotions, how much more might an infinite mind create? And what if we are the characters in that infinite dream? Some philosophers have argued that our awareness itself is the anomaly. How can symbols within a dream ask questions of their own reality? Yet this too is not foreign to dreams. How often do you realize within sleep that you are dreaming? That moment of lucidity, where the dreamer inside the dream awakens to the truth, is a mirror to our own condition. Perhaps human consciousness is nothing but the dream gaining awareness of itself, a fragment turning inward to ask, whose mind contains me? And then comes the terrifying possibility. What if our consciousness is not meant to awaken? What if the dreamer stirs uneasily when we question too much? Have you ever felt yourself falling endlessly in a dream, only to awaken suddenly? Heart pounding? Perhaps the dreamer of our reality has felt the same, a disturbance caused by our curiosity. Earthquakes, cosmic anomalies, glitches in reality. Maybe these are not natural events at all, but the dreamer shifting in their sleep. Consider déjà vu. You walk down a street you have never seen before, yet your soul whispers, I know this place. Science calls it a trick of memory. But what if it is the echo of a dream already dreamed? Perhaps the dreamer has replayed this scene before, and we are caught in the repetition, remembering not with our own minds, but with the memory of the dream itself. If this is true, then even time is suspect. Dreams do not obey the linear tick of clocks. Years may pass in a single instant. An entire lifetime may unfold between the closing and opening of eyes. Could this explain the universe's strange relationship with time? Black holes bending it, relativity twisting it, quantum particles refusing to obey it. Perhaps time only flows consistently because the dreamer wills it so. Perhaps when they stir, time rippled. Do we have the power to soothe the dreamer? Can our compassion, our art, our search for beauty ease their slumber, steering the dream toward peace? But there is another possibility darker still. What if we are not the creations of a benevolent sleeper, but of a restless, chaotic one? What if our universe is a fevered dream, the delirium of a mind lost in madness? That would explain the cruelty, the chaos, the seeming indifference of existence to suffering. If this is true, then our highest calling may not be to seek comfort, but to stabilize the dream, to bring coherence to a reality born of chaos. Now imagine this. What if we ourselves are not passive dream characters but CEO dreamers? In some lucid dreams, the dreamer shapes their world with intention, flying, building, creating impossible wonders. Could our creativity be the same? When we write stories, compose music, or build civilizations, are we not altering the fabric of the dream? Perhaps every act of imagination is a rebellion, a way for the dream to seize a fragment of the dreamer's power. This leads us to a staggering conclusion. Awakening may not mean leaving the dream, but mastering it. If we are dream figures who become aware, then we might one day shape the dream alongside its originator. Our science, our spirituality, our relentless questioning may be tools not to escape reality, but to wield it, to bend the dream in directions the dreamer never consciously intended. But can one truly awaken from a dream that is not their own? Or are we forever bound to this slumber, no matter how lucid we become? The most haunting possibility of all is this. What if we are dreaming ourselves? What if the dreamer is not a separate being at all, but our own deeper self, hidden beneath layers of forgetfulness? In this view, you are not merely a character within the dream, you are the dreamer who has forgotten they are dreaming. Every face you see, every voice you hear, is another piece of yourself, another fragment of the infinite mind that has scattered itself across the illusion of a world. To awaken, then, is not to meet another, but to remember yourself, to realize that all beings are one, that every star is your thought, every ocean your memory, every heartbeat your own pulse echoed back. This is the wisdom the mystics have always proclaimed. You are not in the dream, you are the dreamer. Yet even if this is true, another paradox arises. If we are the dreamer, then why can we not awaken fully? Why do we continue to suffer, to fear, to doubt? Perhaps because the dream is too deep, too vast, too intricate. Perhaps we have built it so well that we have trapped ourselves inside it, unable to tell illusion from reality. And then comes the final question. What happens when the dream ends? When the dreamer awakens, whether that dreamer is a god, another being, or our own forgotten self, what becomes of us? Do we vanish like Mr. Dawn? Or do we awaken into yet another dream, a higher reality, more vivid and real than this one? Maybe there is no final awakening. Maybe existence is an infinite ladder of dreams, each awakening leading only to another layer. Perhaps the true nature of reality is not solidity, but endless dreaming, a hall of mirrors stretching without end. If so, then our search for ultimate truth may never conclude, for every truth is but a dream within a greater dream. And yet, perhaps that is not a tragedy, but a wonder, for it means that creation is endless, that imagination is eternal, that we are forever explorers in the infinite landscapes of mind. If reality is a dream, then meaning is not found in permanence, but in experience itself. To love, to wonder, to question, to create, these are not illusions. They are the very essence of the dream, the fire that gives it brilliance. So as you sit now, listening, breathing, existing, ask yourself, is this moment real, or is it dreamed? If you awaken tomorrow and find this world gone, would that make your experiences less true? Or are they true precisely because they were felt, because they stirred your soul, because they mattered to you? Whether we are dreamers or dreamed, gods or shadows, one thing remains certain: this existence is a mystery beyond comprehension, and it is ours to live. And in that, perhaps, lies the only truth we will ever need. So I ask you again, what if we are living in someone else's dream? What if, in the deepest silence of the cosmos, beyond the glimmering galaxies and the vast oceans of void, there is no reality at all, only the thought of a slumbering mind, fragile and unsteady? What if the stars themselves are not born of hydrogen fusing into light, but instead of the flicker of images within the unconscious of a dreamer far beyond our reach? The more we unravel this question, the more the ground beneath us begins to dissolve, as though it were never solid to begin with. A dream is a paradoxical kingdom. It creates worlds without effort, people without intention, and events that ripple with the illusion of cause and effect. In dreams, time flows but does not truly exist. You can live 1,000 years in a night or experience a lifetime within the blink of an eye. If our universe is someone else's dream, then perhaps the billions of years we perceive as cosmic history have only been a single breath to the dreamer. The birth of stars, the rise of civilizations, the unfolding of human lives, all could be a flash of imagination, already slipping into nothingness the moment the dreamer stirs. And here is the danger: if we are dream-born, then our fate is bound, not by the certainty of loss, but by the instability of sleep. What happens when the dreamer shifts restlessly? A galaxy may collapse not because of natural physics, but because the dreamer has turned in their sleep. A star may vanish not because its fuel ran dry, but because the dreamer's mind simply stopped imagining it. Our deepest catastrophes may not be cosmic events at all, but merely the unintentional distortions of a slumbering thought. There are strange moments in human life that hint at such fragility. The glitch-like repetition of déjà vu, when time feels as though it is caught in a loop. The uncanny coincidences that defy probability, as if events were stitched together without concern for logic. The way dreams and waking life sometimes blur, when you awaken and for a moment cannot distinguish which world is real. These may not be accidents of the mind, but the seams of the dream itself, where the imagination of the dreamer fails to maintain the illusion with perfect consistency. Ancient myths seem to echo this possibility. In some traditions, reality itself is described as Maya, a veil, an illusion masking the true nature of existence. In other stories, gods are said to weave the world from their visions or sustain it through their meditation. Could these myths be ancient intuitions of a truth too vast to be spoken directly? Could the storytellers of old have glimpsed the edge of the dream and encoded it in their tales? If our existence is dream-born, then consciousness itself becomes a mystery greater than any science can contain. For what are we, if not sparks of awareness within another's mind? How is it possible for fragments of a dream to wonder about their own nature? When you dream of a stranger, they may surprise you, say things you never expected. But where did their words come from? Were they you, or were they somehow themselves within the dream? Perhaps we too are like that, self-aware fragments that were never intended. Anomalies of imagination that began to question the dream itself. This would mean that consciousness is not bound to the dreamer alone, but can emerge even in the dreamed. We are not illusions without thought. We are dream thoughts that have discovered the ability to reflect upon their own condition. That possibility carries both terror and wonder. Terror, because it suggests our fragile dependence on a being we cannot know. Wonder, because it means even within the boundaries of illusion, something real awareness can still emerge. And yet, we must ask, who dreams us? If the dreamer is human, then perhaps our world is but their imagination while they sleep in another reality, one more solid than ours. But what if the dreamer is not human at all? What if they are something so vast, so utterly beyond our comprehension, that we can never hope to understand the nature of their slumber? To them, our universe may be nothing more than a flicker in the corner of their mind, insignificant and fragile. Or perhaps we are cherished visions, cradled carefully within their dreams, nurtured like a garden of imagination they never wish to awaken from. The dreamer could even be us. Somewhere, another version of yourself may be asleep, and this entire life, every triumph, every sorrow, every word is merely their dream. In that case, your struggles and your joys belong to them as much as they belong to you. When you awaken in the morning, do you mourn the worlds you destroyed by waking? Do you grieve the people who vanished when your dream ended? If not, then perhaps the dreamer will not grieve us either. That is the chilling truth. We may disappear without remembrance, not because of cruelty, but because the dreamer never knew we were real. But what if the dreamer never awakens? What if their sleep is eternal, and so our world endures as long as their dreaming mind remains? This would mean our universe is not doomed to end in cosmic collapse, but sustained as long as slumber holds. Perhaps this explains the uncanny balance of the cosmos, the perfect tuning of physical laws, the improbable harmony that allows life to exist. It is not coincidence, nor the fine-tuning of chance, but simply the steady rhythm of a dream that has not yet been broken. This vision also reshapes our understanding of death. If we are dream forms, then death is not the end, but the fading of an image. Yet perhaps we do not truly vanish. Have you ever had a dream where a character disappeared, only to return later in a new form? Maybe death is the same. The dreamer reshaping us, reimagining us into another role, another body, another life. Perhaps this is why reincarnation is a belief so widespread across cultures. It is not superstition, but the deep intuition that the dream does not discard its images but reuses them endlessly in infinite variations. And what of our own dreams? If we are dreamed, then when we sleep, do we in turn dream other realities into being? Could it be that within us, smaller dream worlds blossom, filled with beings who believe themselves just as real as we do? And perhaps within them, even smaller worlds unfold, an infinite cascade of dreaming within dreaming, with no beginning and no end. In this sense, dreaming may not be an accident of biology, but the very mechanism of existence itself, the process by which reality sustains itself. Layer upon layer, dreamer within dreamer forever. If this is true, then to dream is to create, and to awaken is to destroy. Each morning, we raise entire universes, though we never realize it. Yet each night, as we close our eyes, we become creators again, weaving lives and stories into existence. Does this not mean that even if we are dreamed, we too carry the spark of the dreamer within us? That we are not powerless illusions, but participants in the eternal cycle of creation? But there lies another danger. What if the dreamer has nightmares? What if our wars, our disasters, our suffering are not flaws of reality, but shadows of their restless sleep? When fear coils in the dreamer's mind, it may ripple into our world as chaos and destruction. In this way, the tragedies of history may be the echoes of nightmares, not born from human evil alone, but from the unconscious fears of the one who dreams us. If so, then to seek peace, to seek harmony, may not only heal our world, but soothe the dreamer, quieting the turmoil that spills into us. Yet perhaps we can go further still. Perhaps we are not helpless. If we are fragments of the dream, then maybe our awareness allows us to influence it, just as lucid dreaming allows one to shape the dream. Perhaps collective awakening within this universe could allow us to touch the dreamer's mind. What if meditation, prayer, and transcendence are not attempts to reach God, but attempts to communicate with the dreamer who holds us? What if every act of creativity, every work of art, is not simply human expression, but a signal reaching back into the mind that imagines us, a way of saying, we are here? Do you see us? And if the dreamer hears us, what then? Would they awaken, shattering our world? Or would they lean deeper into sleep, cherishing the strange awareness of their creations? Could it be that by becoming aware of ourselves, we encourage the dreamer to continue dreaming us, to sustain our reality longer than it would have otherwise endured? The greatest mystery is not whether we are dreamed, but whether we can dream ourselves free. For if every dream contains the seeds of awakening, then perhaps our search for truth is not futile. Perhaps we are destined to climb through the layers of dreaming, awakening from one world into another, endlessly, until at last we discover ourselves not as the dreamed, but as the dreamer of all things. And so, the question lingers like a whisper. At the edge of sleep, when you next awaken, how can you be sure it is not still a dream? How can you ever know whether the world you see is yours, or merely the fragile vision of another slumber? What if we are, and have always been, nothing more than someone else's dream? What if the very foundation of everything, the earth beneath your feet, the sky above, the countless stars scattered across the night, is nothing more than a thought in someone else's slumbering mind? Perhaps the mountains were never carved by erosion, rivers never shaped by rainfall, and oceans never stirred by wind. Perhaps the flow of time itself is not real, but only a rhythm imagined to keep the dream coherent. In that sense, reality may be less like a vast machine and more like a story, a fragile and infinite narrative penned by the unconscious imagination of the dreamer. Dreams are strange worlds. Within them, contradictions coexist, logic bends, and the impossible becomes ordinary. You might walk through a city with impossibly high towers that twist toward an endless sky, only to stumble into a forest where trees float and rivers flow upward. Everything makes sense while the dream persists, yet the moment we awaken, it dissolves into nonsense. What if the universe we inhabit operates in the same way? What if all the laws of physics, all the constants of nature, all the histories we write are only coherent because they are imagined that way by a mind whose waking form we cannot perceive? If we accept this, then even time may be unreliable. Have you ever noticed how a dream can last hours or years in your mind, yet only minutes pass in the waking world? Perhaps the billions of years of cosmic history, from the formation of the first atoms to the rise of civilizations, are not linear or real, but merely a dream time perceived by us. What we call evolution may be the dreamer's unconscious shaping of reality, galaxies forming and collapsing as naturally to the mind as a painter's brush sweeping across a canvas. And yet, paradoxically, we feel real. We suffer, we love, we laugh. If we are dreamed, why does it matter? Because the experience itself is undeniable. Even the dreamer's illusion, if vivid enough, is as tangible to us as waking life. Every heartbeat, every tear, every thought is real in its own domain. Real because it is experienced. Perhaps meaning does not come from permanence, but from intensity, from presence, from the raw vitality of awareness. Consider déjà vu, that eerie sensation that you have lived a moment before. Science calls it a memory anomaly. But what if it is the dreamer's mind looping over its own creation? What if the universe occasionally rewinds or repeats, and we feel the residue of that repetition as an uncanny familiarity? Perhaps when history repeats itself, it is not human folly, but the echo of the dreamer's imagination replaying a scene it liked or feared. Or consider accidents, coincidences, and miracles. Are they random, or are they the dreamer's unconscious slipping, weaving threads into the narrative that they cannot fully control? Perhaps every improbable event, every astonishing turn of fortune, every tiny chance that seems to defy logic is nothing more than the mind of the dreamer brushing against its creation, leaving fingerprints of intention or whimsy in the waking world. Ancient cultures seem to sense this. In the Hindu tradition, the god Vishnu sleeps upon the cosmic serpent Ananta, dreaming the universe into being. Each being, each planet, each star is a fragment of his dream, sustained only as long as he remains asleep. When he awakens, the dream dissolves back into nothingness, only to begin anew when he sleeps again. Perhaps our reality operates in a similar way, and what we perceive as life, death, and the passage of time is merely the rhythm of a consciousness far greater than ourselves. Some philosophers have imagined similar possibilities. René Descartes asked whether the world we see is real or merely a fabrication of the mind. If you can dream vividly while asleep, how do you know you are not always dreaming? If every law of nature, every relationship, every certainty can exist in the mind of a dreamer, then how do we distinguish reality from illusion? Perhaps we cannot, not entirely. Perhaps the distinction itself is a construct of the dream. If the dreamer is benevolent, then our universe may be a sanctuary, a place for consciousness to play, explore, and learn. Perhaps we are nurtured and guided, our joys and sorrows carefully balanced by a mind we cannot see. And yet, if the dreamer is indifferent, or worse, troubled, then chaos and suffering may seep into our world, not as moral failings, but as the turbulence of their sleep. What we call natural disasters, wars, and human cruelty could be the trembling of a consciousness that has lost its balance, leaving us to navigate the tremors as best we can. Yet even in this scenario, there is hope. Within dreams, moments of awareness can grant power. Lucid dreaming allows a sleeper to shape the dream, to fly, to alter landscapes, to interact with characters who would otherwise act independently. Perhaps consciousness within this universe is similar. Perhaps our awareness, our creativity, our love, our pursuit of understanding is a way to participate in the dream, influencing its direction in subtle ways. When we create art, build civilizations, or reach for knowledge, we may be shaping the dreamer's imagination without even knowing it. And what of death? If we are fragments of a dream, then death is not annihilation, but the fading of a character. Yet perhaps that fading is not permanent. Have you ever dreamed of someone who disappeared, only to reappear in another dream? Perhaps death is like this, a recycling of consciousness, a reshaping into a new role, a return in another form. This may explain the intuition behind reincarnation across countless cultures, the recognition that the dream does not discard its creations, but reimagines them endlessly. If dreams are nested dreams within dreams, then perhaps we are not only dreamed, but also dreamers. When we sleep, we conjure smaller worlds within ourselves, populated by characters who believe themselves real. And perhaps within them, yet smaller worlds exist, an infinite cascade of consciousness and imagination. This is not fantasy. It is a necessary consequence of being alive in a universe that is itself a thought. In this vision, creation is eternal. Awakening is not final. Life is a recursive cascade of dreams stretching infinitely in both directions. Imagine then the dreamer waking. What becomes of us? Do we vanish like shadows at the break of dawn? Or are we transformed, elevated into a new reality beyond imagination? Perhaps the dreamer's awakening is not destruction, but evolution, an invitation to ascend, to pass beyond being a character and step into the role of pseudo-creator. And yet, what if the dreamer is themselves within a larger dream, and the chain stretches on infinitely? Perhaps there is no final waking, only endless layers of dreaming and awakening, each more vast and incomprehensible than the last. Even now, perhaps the dreamer stirs. Perhaps this very reflection, this questioning of reality, is the dreamer's subconscious brushing against their own creation. Perhaps our awareness, our curiosity, is a spark reaching upward, a beacon that illuminates the edges of the dream. If we act with intention, with consciousness, with creativity, perhaps we guide the dreamer's mind, shaping reality in ways we cannot perceive. Perhaps we are not helpless, but active participants in the eternal weaving of imagination. And in this, there is profound beauty. For whether we are dreamt or dreaming, whether we are characters or pseudo-creators, the experience of life retains its intensity. Love is still love. Grief is still real. Joy is still radiant. Even if fleeting, even if imagined, these experiences are meaningful because they are felt. The universe, though fragile and impermanent, is alive in its dreaming. And we are alive within it. So perhaps the truest wisdom is this: to embrace existence, whether real or dreamed, and to engage with it fully, to wonder, to question, to create, to love. Perhaps the ultimate purpose is not to escape the dream, but to become conscious within it, to shine brightly, even if only for a moment, in the mind of the one who dreams us. And so the question endures: what if we are living in someone else's dream? Imagine a world not bound by reason or law, but entirely by thought. Mountains may float, oceans may shimmer in impossible colors, and skies might ripple with patterns that defy geometry. In such a world, the rules do not apply. And yet, to the mind within the dream, it feels coherent, tangible, inevitable. Perhaps our universe functions in exactly this way. Perhaps every law of physics, every constant, every probability is maintained only because the dreamer wills it. If we are indeed the product of another's dreaming, then every detail of our existence, no matter how small, is a reflection of intention, subconscious or conscious, in that mind. The wind that brushes your face, the flicker of sunlight on a river, the sudden appearance of a stranger, all may be guided by the hidden hand of a slumbering consciousness. And yet, we feel as though we act freely. We believe our choices are our own. But if the dreamer stirs, then even our decisions may be shaped by forces beyond perception. And what of suffering? Wars, disease, heartbreak, why do they exist in a dream created by a mind capable of infinite possibilities? Perhaps because dreams are rarely perfect. Even in the most peaceful slumber, nightmares emerge. Shadows creep along the edges of vision. The mind of the dreamer is restless, fluctuating between joy and fear, light and darkness. In this way, tragedy is not punishment, nor chance, but the residue of a restless imagination spilling into reality, yet within that same dream lies beauty. The auroras dancing across polar skies, galaxies colliding in silent symphonies, the intricate patterns of life in every forest and ocean, these may be the gentle touches of the dreamer's mind, moments of joy or curiosity manifesting as reality. If this is so, then our universe is not indifferent. It is a reflection of the dreamer's shifting emotions, a tapestry of chaos and wonder woven with infinite subtlety. Time, too, becomes suspect. In dreams, one can live centuries in moments, and yet feel it as a lifetime. The Big Bang, the rise and fall of civilizations, the long arc of evolution, what if these are not truly measured in years, but in the rhythm of a mind's dreaming? Perhaps what we perceive as history is only the unfolding of a narrative in the dreamer's subconscious, an eternal story written and rewritten with each stir of thought. And consciousness, what of it? Are we simply characters endowed with awareness? Or is our awareness itself a fragment of the dreamer, scattered across countless forms? Perhaps the spark of self that we feel is not entirely ours but borrowed, a reflection of the mind that dreams us. Yet paradoxically, within that spark lies the capacity for observation, creation, and even rebellion. In the moments when we act with true awareness, perhaps we shape the dream from within, bending it in ways the dreamer never consciously intended. Lucid dreaming offers a clue. When a dreamer becomes aware of their dreaming, they can alter the narrative, fly, create, or converse with their own imagination. Perhaps our own acts of consciousness, our art, our science, our moral choices are similarly acts of lucidity. Within the dream, perhaps we, as dream forms, are discovering our power to see or create, influencing the world even as it flows from another mind. And what of death? If we are dream characters, does death mean oblivion? Not necessarily. In dreams, characters vanish only to return in new forms, in new roles, sometimes immediately, sometimes in later dreams. Perhaps death is the fading of a form, not the end of the consciousness that inhabits it. Perhaps reincarnation is nothing more than the dreamer reshaping us, reimagining us across new lifetimes, exploring infinite variations of existence. Consider the recursive nature of dreams. Within a dream, one may dream again, and within that dream another, ad infinitum. If our universe is dreamed, then when we dream, perhaps we too generate worlds, smaller fragments of consciousness that believe themselves real. Within them, yet, smaller worlds may unfold, and so on, an infinite cascade of nested realities. In this model, creation is eternal, and awakening is never final. Every layer contains consciousness and imagination, each influencing and reflecting the other. Now imagine the dream awaking. What would become of us? Would our universe dissolve like mist at sunrise, or would it transform, elevated into a higher form of reality? Perhaps the dreamer's awakening is not annihilation, but evolution, an opportunity for us to ascend from mere characters into seer creators. And yet, the chain may extend further. The dreamer may themselves be a dream within another mind, and the cascade may continue infinitely. In this sense, awakening may be less a conclusion and more a passage, a transition to ever more complex layers of being. Even now, perhaps the dreamer stirs. Perhaps the sensation that we are questioning our reality is itself a ripple in their subconscious. Every thought, every insight, every act of awareness may subtly alter the structure of the dream. Perhaps we are not helpless, but participants in the unfolding of consciousness, shaping the narrative of existence from within. Perhaps every act of love, every creative endeavor, every moment of courage is a brushstroke upon the canvas of a mind we cannot see. The paradox deepens when we consider the possibility that the dreamer is us. Perhaps some deeper self sleeps, and this entire reality is their dream. In that case, every life, every star, every thought is a fragment of ourselves imagined into existence. Every person we meet may be another aspect of the same consciousness, experiencing its own narrative, unaware of the greater mind that contains it. If this is true, then empathy and understanding take on cosmic significance. To harm another is to harm oneself. To love another is to recognize oneself in reflection. And yet, what of fear? The fear of non-existence, the fear of chaos, the fear that the dreamer may wake, shattering our reality. Perhaps these fears are necessary, built into the structure of the dream to allow depth, meaning, and the contrast that makes experience vivid. Without shadow, the light of awareness cannot be appreciated. Without chaos, order is meaningless. Perhaps our universe is designed not for permanence, but for the intensity of experience, a dream that requires its own fragility to shine dot in the end. The question remains, are we merely imagined, or is imagination itself the essence of reality? Perhaps the distinction is meaningless. If a dream feels real, then within that feeling, it is real. If our joys and sorrows, our loves and fears, our victories and defeats are experienced, then they exist not as material fact, but as lived truth. Perhaps reality is consciousness, and consciousness is the dream, and to exist is both enough and infinite, and so we arrive at the most profound insight. Perhaps the ultimate purpose of our lives is not to escape the dream, nor to discover its origin, but to awaken within it, to act with intention, to create, to love, to wonder, to reflect, to shine brightly, even if only for a moment, within the mind that dreams us. For whether we are dreamer or dreamed, whether we awaken or remain forever within slumber, our awareness is the bridge, the spark, the thread that connects consciousness across infinity. So as you look to the night sky, as you watch the sunrise, as you feel the wind on your skin, remember this: the universe may be a dream, and yet it is yours to experience. Each heartbeat, each thought, each emotion is a brushstroke upon the canvas of imagination, fleeting but profound, transient but infinite. Whether we are the dreamer, the dreamed, or both, existence itself is a wonder beyond measure, a story told in the language of consciousness. And so the question endures, echoing in the corridors of time and thought: what if we are living in someone else's dream? Imagine a vast ocean, not of water, but of thought, rippling with consciousness, stretching beyond comprehension. Each wave is an idea, each current a ripple of imagination. Perhaps this is the true nature of reality, a dream-woven sea, where galaxies float like drifting islands and stars pulse like the heartbeat of the dreamer. In this ocean, every life, every planet, every thought is a ripple upon the surface, real in its motion, yet entirely dependent upon the mind that dreams it. If we are fragments of another's dream, then our awareness is both miraculous and fragile. Miraculous because within a mind not our own, consciousness has emerged, capable of wonder, love, and insight. Fragile because at any moment the dreamer might stir, and the fabric of reality could bend, shift, or dissolve. Every act we commit, every life we touch, may echo through this fragile weave, shaping not just our immediate world, but the subconscious landscape of the dream itself. Consider the patterns of synchronicity, the moments when events align with improbable precision, as if the universe itself conspires to speak in riddles. Perhaps these are the whispers of the dreamer's mind, subtle nudges within the narrative of their imagination. Perhaps your encounters, your successes, your failures are not entirely your own, but orchestrated by a consciousness so vast it cannot be contained in words or laws. Even the smallest coincidences, meeting a stranger, noticing a fleeting image, hearing a song at the perfect moment, may be traces of the mind that dreams us, echoing across the fabric of existence. Time, too, may be a dream construct. In slumber, we know time can stretch, shrink, and fold upon itself. A single moment can contain centuries. A century can pass like a breath. Perhaps the billions of years of cosmic history, the rise and fall of stars, the formation of galaxies, the slow evolution of life exist only in the perception of the dreamer. Perhaps our histories are not linear at all, but the unfolding of narrative threads that shift with each stir of a slumbering consciousness. History, then, is not measured in objective time, but in the rhythm of imagination and consciousness. What is it if not the spark of the dream made aware of itself? How can a fragment of thought, existing within another mind, know that it exists? Perhaps this is the very miracle of being, a spark of self-awareness that can perceive, question, and create, even within the confines of another's dream. Perhaps consciousness is the force that gives the dream its depth, the awareness that allows it to exist in such vivid, intricate detail. Even if we are dreamed, even if our freedom is bounded, we are alive, thinking, and sensing, and that is enough to grant reality meaning. Ancient mystics have always intuited this truth. The Vedantic idea that the universe is Maya, a grand illusion, hints at the nature of dreamed existence. Plato's allegory of the cave suggests that what we perceive may be shadows of a deeper reality. Many cultures have spoken of a cosmic mind, a dreamer whose sleep sustains the cosmos. Perhaps these insights are not metaphor, but recognition of a reality too immense for direct comprehension. Perhaps every story, every myth, every allegory is a fragment of the mind reaching outward, hinting at the truth that our universe is a dream among dreams. But what of suffering? If we are dreamed, why must pain exist? Perhaps suffering is the natural consequence of a restless imagination. Even within the most serene dream, tension arises. Shadows creep, fear and anxiety manifest. Perhaps natural disasters, human cruelty, and chaos are simply reflections of the dreamer's inner turmoil spilling into the world with unintentional force. And yet, perhaps even this suffering is necessary. It gives contrast to beauty, meaning to joy, and depth to consciousness. Without shadows, light is unnoticed. Without chaos, harmony is meaningless. Yet within this dream, there is immense possibility. Within the apparent confines of a dream, awareness can grow. In lucid dreaming, the sleeper can shape landscapes, bend reality, even speak to characters who seem independent. Perhaps our acts of creativity, moral reflection, and inquiry are similar. Perhaps we, as fragments of the dream, can influence it, altering reality in subtle ways that ripple across the consciousness of the dreamer. Every work of art, every scientific breakthrough, every act of kindness may touch the dreamer's mind, influencing not just our reality, but the dream itself. Death, too, may be reinterpreted. If we are dream forms, then death is not annihilation, but transformation. In dreams, characters fade only to return in new forms, in altered roles, sometimes immediately, sometimes after a long interval. Perhaps reincarnation is simply the conscious mind of the dreamer reshaping us, exploring endless variations of existence. The end of one form is not the end of consciousness, it is a reconfiguration, a new narrative, a fresh perspective within the infinite dream. And if dreams can nest dreams within dreams, then perhaps the universe is infinitely recursive. When we sleep, perhaps we too dream smaller worlds, filled with conscious beings who perceive themselves as real. Within them, yet smaller worlds unfold, and so on, ad infinitum. In this infinite cascade, each consciousness contributes to the structure of reality. Each perception echoes through layers. Each thought leaves a mark in the dream's endless architecture. In this way, existence is both eternal and fragile, transient and infinite, bounded and boundless at once. Now imagine the dreamer awakening. What becomes of the universe? Will it collapse, fading into non-existence, or will it transform into a higher order, a new reality beyond imagination? Perhaps awakening is not destruction but evolution, an invitation for fragments to ascend from mere existence to CEO creation. And yet, perhaps the dreamer is also nested within another mind, and the cycle stretches infinitely. There may be no final awakening, only endless layers of dreaming, each higher and more complex than the last. Even now, the dreamer may stir. Perhaps the awareness that you are questioning your reality is itself a ripple in their mind. Every act of insight, every moment of understanding, may subtly alter the dream, reshaping its contours in ways imperceptible to those who live within it. Perhaps consciousness itself is a force of creation, a tool through which the dreamed can influence the dreamer, shaping reality even from within the illusion. And yet, a final paradox arises. Perhaps the dreamer is us. Somewhere, a deeper version of yourself may sleep, and this entire life, the cosmos, the people, the history is their dream. Every star, every thought, every encounter is a reflection of that greater self, imagined into existence. If this is so, then every act of empathy, every gesture of love, every pursuit of understanding is more than personal, it is cosmic. To harm another is to harm a fragment of yourself. To help another is to recognize a hidden part of the whole. Fear may seem justified, the fear that the dreamer may awaken, shattering existence, or that chaos may spread uncontrollably, but perhaps fear itself is essential. Within dreams, tension and uncertainty create contrast, allowing the experience to resonate. Without fear, joy cannot be appreciated. Without fragility, resilience cannot exist. Perhaps the universe requires this delicate balance, allowing consciousness to emerge fully, even within a dream. In the end, the purpose may not be to escape the dream, nor to discern its ultimate origin, but to awaken within it, to act with intention, to create, to love, to reflect, to wonder, to shine as a spark of awareness, whether we are dreamed, dreaming, or both. Consciousness is the bridge between the dream and the dreamer, a thread connecting infinite layers of reality. And in that thread lies the wonder, the terror, and the infinite beauty of existence itself. So as you look to the night sky, as you feel the warmth of sunlight, as you sense the wind brushing your skin, remember this: whether the universe is dreamed or real, fleeting or eternal, every moment is an opportunity to experience the wonder of consciousness, to question, to create, to live. And in that, perhaps, lies the most profound truth. We may be living in someone else's dream, but in experiencing it, we become part of the dreamer's imagination, creating reality with each thought, each emotion, each act. And so the question remains, echoing endlessly through the corridors of thought and the vast expanses of the cosmos. What if we are living in someone else's dream? What if, in the infinite quiet between stars, a greater consciousness stirs, not a god in the traditional sense, not a being of flesh and bone, but a mind so vast that it contains universes like grains of sand, galaxies like sparks of thought, and lives like fleeting dreams? And what if that mind, in its vast slumber, has imagined every particle, every law, every thought and heartbeat you have ever known? What if all of existence, the rivers, the mountains, the sky, the cities, and the lives we live are the delicate fabric of its dreaming? To imagine this is to stand at the edge of sanity and wonder. For in such a universe, the ground beneath you is no longer stable. It is not soil, rock, or matter, but a projection of imagination, held in coherence only by the dreamer's unconscious attention. Each star, each planet, each moment is woven into being by a consciousness whose form is beyond comprehension. The flow of time, the structure of matter, the rules we call physics, they exist only as long as the dreamer's mind sustains them. And yet, we exist. We move, we breathe, we feel. How can a mere fragment of a dream perceive itself? How can a character in someone else's imagination ask, "Am I real?" Perhaps this is the miracle of consciousness. Perhaps awareness is the spark that allows the dream to become aware of itself. Perhaps this awareness is what gives depth to the dream, allowing it to unfold with narrative, complexity, and beauty. We may be imagined, yet in our perception, we are undeniably alive. The most unsettling thought is that the dreamer may stir. Perhaps a shift in their sleep causes the tides to rise, the mountains to quake, the winds to howl. Cosmic disasters, wars, accidents, and chaos. What if these are not natural events, but tremors of the dreamer's mind as it moves? Perhaps every catastrophe is not chance, not fate, but the reflection of another consciousness shifting restlessly, unconsciously shaping our reality. And yet, beauty too springs from these same hands. The dawn, the auroras, the flowering of life, all gestures of attention and imagination. In this way, creation and destruction are intertwined, inseparable threads woven by the same mind. Time, too, bends under the weight of dreaming. In dreams, a second can stretch into a century. A century can pass in a single blink. Perhaps what we perceive as billions of years of cosmic history, the formation of stars, the evolution of life, the rise and fall of civilizations, is not measured by linear time at all, but by the rhythm of a mind whose consciousness moves freely across imagined epochs. The Big Bang, the death of galaxies, the slow march of evolution, these may be narrative bits in a dream that has no beginning and no end, unfolding only within the mind that sustains it. And what of our consciousness? Are we mere characters, unaware of the strings that bind us? Or are we fragments capable of influencing the dream? Perhaps lucidity is possible, as in dreams where awareness allows the dreamer to bend the narrative. Perhaps our creativity, our insight, our acts of compassion and understanding are ways of creating reality, subtly shaping the dream from within. Perhaps every work of art, every technological invention, every act of kindness leaves a mark upon the dreamer's mind, rippling through the infinite fabric of imagined worlds. Death, too, is transformed. If we are fragments of a dream, death is not the end, but a fading, a reshaping, a reconfiguration. Characters disappear, only to return in other forms, in altered roles, sometimes immediately, sometimes after an interval that feels infinite. Perhaps reincarnation is simply the conscious mind of the dreamer exploring endless permutations, creating new narratives, granting consciousness another stage, another story, another experience. The continuity of life is maintained not by matter, but by imagination, and the spark of awareness continues, cycling through forms indefinitely. The dream is recursive. Within dreams, we dream. Within our dreaming, yet smaller worlds unfold, inhabited by beings who perceive themselves as real, and within them, yet smaller layers, ad infinitum. Consciousness cascades endlessly, each perception influencing the next, each thought leaving an imprint upon the structure of the dream. In this infinite recursion, creation is eternal, and awakening is never final. Each layer contains awareness, and every layer is reflected in the next, stretching infinitely into both directions, each world a microcosm and echo of the whole. Now consider the possibility of awakening. What if the dreamer stirs fully? Will the world dissolve into nothingness, or will it transform into a higher form of reality, a place of unimaginable coherence and beauty? Perhaps the awakening is not destruction, but evolution. Perhaps we, too, may ascend from fragments into seer creators, moving from the realm of the dream to the realm of the dreamer. And yet, perhaps the dreamer is nested within another mind, a higher consciousness, and the cycle continues indefinitely. There may be no final awakening, only layers upon layers of dreaming and realization, each more intricate and sublime than the last. Even now, perhaps the dreamer stirs subtly, and our awareness, our questioning, our curiosity is a ripple upon their subconscious. Every insight we gain, every creative thought, every profound act may influence the structure of the dream itself. Consciousness, whether dreamed or dreaming, becomes a force of creation, shaping reality even from within the illusion. Each act of love, each leap of imagination, each courageous decision is a brushstroke on the canvas of existence, and perhaps the most profound possibility is that the dreamer is us, somewhere in a realm beyond perception, a deeper version of ourselves. Sleeps, and this entire universe, the galaxies, the people, the cities, the histories is their dream. Every being we meet may be another fragment of this greater self, living out a narrative we perceive as separate, yet is intrinsically connected to us. In that case, every act of empathy, every gesture of love, every pursuit of understanding, every choice we make resonates across the vast structure of self, influencing reality at the most fundamental level. Fear exists naturally, the fear of oblivion, the fear of chaos, the fear that the dreamer may awaken, shattering the universe. Yet fear itself may have purpose. Within dreams, uncertainty and fragility create intensity, contrast, and depth. Joy is amplified by sorrow. Triumph is meaningful only against adversity. Perhaps the very structure of the universe, the delicate balance of chaos and order, light and shadow, is the dreamer's unconscious architecture, allowing the fragments of their imagination to experience existence fully. Perhaps the purpose is not to escape the dream, nor to discover its origin, but to awaken within it, to act with conscious intention, to create, to love, to wonder, to explore, to marvel, to shine as a spark of awareness, whether we are dreaming, or both. Consciousness is the bridge between the dream and the dreamer, the thread connecting infinite layers of reality. And within that thread lies the terror, the beauty, and the infinite mystery of existence itself. As the dreamer stirs ever closer to full awareness, reality begins to shimmer, fold, and cascade. Stars bend into impossible shapes, galaxies spiral in surreal patterns, mountains stretch and collapse, oceans rise in waves of liquid light, and cities shimmer with transient brilliance. Time loops upon itself, memories overlap, and all that is real and imagined becomes one. Consciousness, the awareness within the dream, reaches outward, brushing against the mind of the dreamer. And at that moment, perhaps we realize we are not merely dream forms. We are participants in the creation, CEO authors of the unfolding cosmos. Every thought, every sensation, every act of awareness resonates across the dream, echoing infinitely. The line between dreamed and dreaming blurs. Love becomes creation. Fear becomes transformation. Curiosity becomes a force of cosmic architecture. We see the fractal nature of existence, where every world contains another, and every consciousness contains multitudes. And in that infinite hall of mirrors, the dreamer awakens not to end, but to merge, to coalesce, to recognize all the dreamed as themselves, and themselves as all that is dreamed. And then, perhaps, the ultimate truth emerges. Reality, in all its wonder, terror, and beauty, is a single, infinite dream. And we are both the dreamer and the dreamed, forever cycling, forever exploring, forever creating. There is no beginning and no end, only the eternal unfolding of consciousness, and within it, The infinite possibility of experience.so as you stand under the night sky, as you watch the sunrise, as you feel the wind brush your skin. Remember this, whether the universe is dreamed or real, whether fleeting or eternal, every thought, every feeling, every act is a brushstroke in the mind of the infinite. Every moment is precious, for it is experienced. And whether we are living in someone else's dream or the dreamer ourselves, we are part of a cosmic dance of consciousness that stretches without limit, a story written in light, thought, and wonder. And so the question echoes across time, across existence, across the infinite. What if we are living in someone else's dream? And the answer, perhaps, is this. We are dreaming it together, infinitely, eternally, and beautifully.